Woo. So, questions, thoughts, comments about the practice or anything else today? Start with the practice, though.
Jean, this is Maria.
Hi.
I thought it was fabulous for me. I felt a sense of peace almost in everything that we did, and especially in the shavasana. I felt that there was. I thought it was a lot longer than it was, and at one point I just kind of peeked just to see if you were still on the screen, see if we had stopped. But I just haven't had an overwhelming sense of peace and restfulness. And I realized that I've needed that for a little while. And so like when you say, what you need is right here, right now, and that's definitely what it was for me. In the meditation afterwards, I don't know what it was. I think it was spurred maybe by the shavasana. I've had a lot of things that have been coming back from before about just concern or worry. And mainly it's because of my children. As I mentioned yesterday, one's a resident, so the whole COVID thing and, PTSD and all that kind of stuff. And then my other son, who's a sergeant, who's also SWAT, who's going to be at the Capitol on Wednesday. And when I was in this state, I had those like worries coming in, and usually I really freak out about them at a certain point. And this time for me, it was almost like, I don't know, like a bathing of the emotion coming, but I didn't react to it. And something in me said, okay, so what would happen? There's things I don't have control over. And I didn't go through this whole thought process, but afterwards I realized that I felt like it could come in and it could go out, and it didn't have to affect me in a negative way. And that's been a long time coming for me. And so I just want to say thank you, because that's like I have a piece of that, and I can remember that now for other times. And hopefully from this is the seed that it will grow from. So thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much for saying that, Maria. That was a really good example of what we were talking about earlier, about how the heart can hold space for all these things that move through it, and how do we get pulled into one of those trajectories. But that was just your experience was a beautiful way of saying way better than what was on the whiteboard. So no greater than or less than you. Thank you for that. Anyone else have anything they would like to?
I would like to share.
Hi, Linda. Yes, please. Would love to hear from you.
So Thursday, I did the root practice for the first day of your last weekend. And then Friday, I did the second practice, right? And then Saturday, we were together and we did the Manipura practice. And I'm not sure if all of that work below the heart dredged up a lot, because this morning I was kind of rancid. I felt kind of angry and agitated. And I had a lot of pressure around my heart, as if there was like a block there. And so this practice was just what I needed. At the end, I had sort of just a sense of a broad oscillation of energy around my heart. It was amazing. And a real sense of peace. I think that exploring the subtleties and the sensitivities the way you did of the heart, of the lungs supporting the heart, of the gentle broadening of the shoulder blades, and using, you know, one arm, extending one lung at a time. The nuances of those things for me were phenomenal. So thank you.
Thanks so much for sharing that, Linda. And yes, a completely different experience having done, because normally this practice, well, when we used to do these trainings, they used to be 5 days in a row. Yeah. And so you kind of have been getting a little bit of that experience. And so, yes, everyone else had a weekend and then a month to digest, but you've been going Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So giving yourself that intensive. So yes, the dredging up, yes, all of that.
Yeah, it felt that way. It felt like I reached in and pulled up all this stuff and it was kind of stuck here. And then with this practice today, it really opened up and freed my heart, which thankfully, because, you know, it didn't feel good to have that pressure like that. For whatever reason, I was resisting. And one more thing I wanted to say, you were talking about giving and receiving during the practice, during Shavasana, which I really felt in my hands. And I thought how interesting this symbolic relationship, you know, between your hands and giving and receiving. I could really feel the energy in my hands when you were talking about giving and receiving. So really awesome.
Thank you. Great. Yeah, and I love what you said about you felt the pressure in your heart. And one of the things that I know with some of the yoga cueing that I hear about leading with your heart or pulling your heart forward or all these things we're acting on our heart. We're acting on our heart all the time. There's so much pressure for our heart to perform, you know, or open our heart. We like bossing our hearts around. Well, maybe it just, I love that you use the word pressure on the heart. So it's beautiful in your languaging and how that might not be so pleasant or comfortable, or it might be painful or agitating.
Yeah, like you can't take a crowbar and open it up, you know?
Well, you can try.
Yeah, well, so the idea of the subtleties of respecting the space of the heart and respecting the sensitivities, for me, I felt that deeply. So
Thank you so much for sharing that, Linda. Yeah. Anyone else? Jamie.
This practice brought a lot up for me personally, just going through what I'm going through in my own personal life at this moment in time. If you can't hear my little one, I'm a new mom. And first of all, in the physical practice, I noticed that I was going way much at a slower pace. And that felt right for me. And it allowed me to really find that sense of spaciousness and almost lightness, airiness as we move through the asana practice. And I really liked moving from how the lungs cradle the heart when we move through the shapes. And I noticed when I moved from more of the center emanating out, I felt more stable. But for me, it felt really good to come into that more airy and not such a physical perspective in the practice. So I really appreciated that, Jean. Thank you. And it was such a great reminder. And I think what's coming up for me a lot is just a lot of stuff within the third and fourth chakras as I come into my own sense of being a new mom, because I do find myself comparing myself to other moms, whether it's my physical body, how I look and what I'm doing or not doing, not teaching as much as I used to. Is my baby developing at a proper pace? All this stuff is coming in, and looking on Instagram when I'm breastfeeding and just trying not to do that stuff anymore, because it's just flooding my senses with all this trash almost that I don't necessarily need. And so I'm feeling this sense of bogged down in this region, physically and emotionally and energetically. So this practice really shined, and today's whole discussion has really shined a light on what what I'm taking and what I'm digesting and what's not really needed for me to kind of grow in that sense, or to let go and to just allow myself to be and be patient and to have that space to process what I'm still kind of going through. Even from giving birth, I still think there's a lot of stuff I'm still processing, and yeah, and not go. I don't have to be at this certain level right now, and just allowing myself to be, really. So thank you.
Great. Well, good. Thank you, Jamie. Thanks for bringing that, sharing all that. Hey, and if you want some input on baby development, I highly recommend checking out the work of Bonnie Bainbridge Cohen. That was her thing. She was a occupational therapist back in the day and has done miraculous things with babies and really knows about childhood. Like, I would trust her and Amy Matthews if you want to get some insights on, so you don't have to rush your baby to do things. It's like they're not rushing, because the foundational thing, like, they develop enough strength to push themselves up, which means then they have enough strength to hold their head up. But if we just start putting them up before they're ready, then they're compensating from,
Right.
I know you know all that, but I was just saying, if you want some support on that level, I think those women are ones you want to jam out on and geek out on, instead of people that may not
Okay.
know as much.
Thanks, Jean.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. Anyone else? Lyndsay.
Hi. Yeah, that practice felt really healing for me. This day started out interesting for me too. Linda was talking about how you're having experience this morning too, Linda. My experience this morning, I'm performing 4 times a week on one virtual platform, and my show, I rescheduled it so I could get it in before our class today, and I was feeling like super, super raw. And I was just like being honest about that with the audience, because I don't really know how else to like be if I'm like singing from my stuff. I like, when it comes up, I kind of just share what I'm going through, and it's been good. But I think that like my main struggle with my heart lately is that now that I'm pursuing this artistry that like is coming from my heart, I spend a lot of time externalizing and being like, oh, I'm feeling myself right now. I'm writing right now. I'm writing for a result. Like, I'm writing to share. And so it's that like giving. And it's like my private time where I'm supposed to be like actually feeling my heart has this external like eventual goal. And that's been screwing with my muse a lot, where it's just like, I need some fucking privacy, like for 10 seconds. And of course it's all coming from me, any pressure. But during our practice, I just felt so much of that pressure like release, and just understanding that like I'll be more diligent about boundaries when it's like just trying to like shut out that goal of needing to show something about my heart. It's just like I need time feeling my heart, and that's what I got to do in this practice. And it was so beautiful. So I'm gonna try and really take that with me as I go back into the hustle, which doesn't need to be a hustle, but is. So yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciated it.
Thanks, Lyndsay, for sharing that. I know, got my own relationship with the muse, so yes, we all do. So, so yes, thank you for sharing that. Anyone else? Christine's reaching her TV next.
Yeah, I just want to echo everyone else. Like, today's practice made me realize how much heart practice is my jam. And especially after yesterday's, where I wanted to share but didn't, because I was like, well, everyone else really loved it. And yesterday was interesting because the first half I felt like, oh, this is not what I expected. It's light. I am feeling some spaciousness. And then the second half, for some reason, I felt like this heavy weight just like drop on me, and like I was exhausted by the end of it. But today I felt a lot of spaciousness and like a really nice reminder, like a loving reminder to myself that you can take things slowly and be gentle with yourself. And that felt really good. Like I didn't feel any pressure to do more than I needed. And I think what Jamie was saying, like feeling the lungs kind of just support the heart. And that was really healing for me. So thank you.
Thanks, Christine. And yes, if anyone is having the day where the practice isn't so great for them, I want to hear from you too, because that's part of us. Yeah. So it's not like you're like the only one in the room. And even if you are, there's been other people that have this. It validates all experiences as being valuable. So thank you. Thanks for saying that. And also just speaking to your adrenals, because when we did the stuff, you had mentioned during the practice that you felt that weight, like a weight when we did it from the adrenal point of focus, you know, from the navel center versus the pancreas, which is more spacious. That could be showing some, I mean, some kind of like maybe an adrenal imbalance. Maybe your adrenals might be a smidge tired having a small child. I don't know. Just take a wild guess there, but but there could be some fatigue there going, which then adding that space can add some support from above as well as the space from below. So nice. Thank you for sharing. Phoebe, you were reaching.
I'm double muted. Hi. Yeah, this practice was really beneficial for me. I think a lot of this weekend I felt a little bit of reserved and haven't really been sharing that much. I just kind of felt like low energy. And I think after we went through our talk this morning, I was just reflecting on the fact that, you know, like the word love, and even like after reading other teachers, like unconditional love with like the heart chakra never really resonated with me. It feels like very like hallmark, and I never like was able to internalize that. And I've been, you know, thinking about that for a while. And I think after hearing you kind of explain it, Jean, and talk to it a little bit further, like what came up was like kind of putting that love aside and focusing more on like the respect of things, like, and just starting with respect for some reason, like kept coming up when you were talking earlier. And I was able to resonate with that a little bit more in the term of like, you know, acknowledging and respecting the true value of everyone's light, including my own. And I think when I was actually doing the physical practice, I was trying to come at it from that respect angle and like be gentle with myself and be easy and not like, you know, like you were saying, like force anything. And it really did, like the result of that was like I felt like truly like in all of my cells like safe. Like I felt real, like, and that like the spaciousness also came up, but like cradled, yeah, and like safe is like the only language I'm coming up for it. But and then towards the end when we were and then the naval center part, kind of contradicting that with the other portion was like that was making me feel a little bit more powerful and like strength. And then when we switched it, I felt much more airy and like the flow of things and how those two were kind of playing together. So that was interesting and like fun. But yeah, towards the end, I felt like the breath into the palms and then into the heart and like down through my feet was similar. I forgot. I'm sorry who said this before, but I think like it did. I think it was Linda, like you were saying, kind of like a swirl of like a cloud almost. I definitely felt that. And I think I almost saw like a smoke, like gathering in myself and then like spreading out like over San Francisco. For some reason, I kept like thinking of San Francisco, like almost like the fog, you know, and like coming back to me. And that was really, it just felt really special and almost felt like I was like elevating a little bit off of, like not off of the ground, I want to say, but like I just felt like such a lightness. It was almost a little scary that when I like woke up out of it, I almost had like a burst of like adrenaline, because I was like almost like when you like wake up, you know, you're like, whoa, like what happened, sort of thing. So it was definitely very powerful, and it just made me want to practice more from this place rather than kind of pushing things where I mentally feel like I should be. So thank you. It was amazing.
Thank you for sharing that, Phoebe. Fantastic. Thanks. Anyone else? Sarah.
I wasn't going to share actually, but until when Christine, you mentioned that you didn't enjoy the practice or your experience yesterday. I felt that way yesterday too, and I felt that way today. I felt like it was definitely, I don't even know if I have the words for it, but I'll try. It felt too like airy for me. Like it definitely felt like when you were explaining how the heart can be pulled by the lower three chakras, the first three. And I think, or I felt during that practice, like me just being pulled everywhere and kind of irritated and like in a bad mood, and kind of just like a 3-year-old throwing its toys on the floor, like, I don't want to do this practice. So I definitely took it light. I had brief moments of like the visualization and like the feeling of the lungs like supporting the heart just from all areas, not just the front and not just around like the heart, but like visualizing that and feeling it physiologically helped me ground a little bit more. And I don't know when I had this realization, if it was during practice or shavasana or the meditation, but this idea that the heart isn't the doer and the heart is kind of just like, it just simply is. And it's like, it's either going to be pulled like my experience today, or like, it's just there receiving and giving without like any strings attached, or like the visualization of the blood. And like, I felt from the beginning of today to right now, like I felt most comfortable when we were talking about like the physiological like aspects of the heart, because I'm most familiar with that, you know? So I felt like, I was like, oh, okay, I get this part. But it definitely helps kind of like intertwining the chakra and the physical aspects of the heart. Yeah, so I feel like maybe the heart chakra practice isn't right for me right now, but I'll still like, I'm curious about it, but I feel like the first 3 chakras, especially the third one, I felt like it was mostly calling my attention to yesterday. Spending more time there first before I get lost in the air of the heart and getting pulled in every which direction. So thank you for that too.
Thanks, Sarah, so much for that share. First of all, I just wanted to comment on the how you like the physiological part of the heart to guide you and to inform our perception of the heart chakra. And remember that we were an energy before we were structure. So if we want to see how, I mean, to look at the physiology is helpful to seeing the esoteric, because they mirror, you know, they relate to each other. It's not random. So it depends on how deep you want to go with the physiology and like really look in there. And I know that, you know, you're into that, you're deep into that right now with your studies. So yay, that's a really great way to go in there and start from that place. And plus it'll be more grounding. And I would say, I think you're spot on with your assessment of building from the ground up. And just like your brief share with me via email, I would say continue with your You're spot on. Your instincts to me are right on. And yes, right now the heart chakra practice probably isn't one that's going to make you feel that way right now. So, but know that it's there and try it from time to time if you want to. But yes, when you're working on the first 3 chakras, sometimes you can come up and do a breath of fresh air in the heart, but sometimes it's just too destabilizing. For the yoga teachers in the room, don't always assume that someone's going to love a heart chakra practice. Yeah. Don't make that assumption that, oh yeah, it's heart day, woo, because there's going to be some people that are afraid to say it because they're going to be shamed out of not loving a heart chakra practice that day. And the reason why they don't love it that day is it could be similar to what Sarah was speaking to, is they're not grounded enough, or they don't have the foundation to really enjoy the airy quality, because it can be so destabilizing, you know? If they've had a very airy experience, or let's say they've had a very airy time in their lives, they just might need a tether. So that's not what, it won't be fun. It'll just be more maybe frightening for some, or destabilizing, or just, I don't get what this is. And, you know, so just know that it's just not going to be the panacea to make everybody feel good, just because you're talking about the heart. Thank you for sharing that. Very important on so many levels. Who else? Turning my phone off because I forgot. Someone raise their hand. So I'm looking at my phone, turning my ringer off. All right. So we've heard from just about everybody that's in some form this weekend, which I love, hearing everybody's voice at least one time. So thank you for that. Wrapping up here. Heart. Heart chakra. This might be putting it more into that format you were mentioning earlier, Mia. Anahata, it's the unstruck sound. It's the center of true compassion and unconditional love. And remember, unconditional love means love without conditions. So if you got a condition, there's a judgment. When the heart chakra is open, we are no longer compelled to act and react upon the points of view and needs of the first 3 chakras. But we might see something from the heart chakra point of view through those first 3 chakras, because it sees all, like we talked about. Tantra says that if your heart is open if the lower 3 don't pull you off balance. So the degree that we aren't pulled is the degree that the heart is open. That would be something that Tantra would say. So take it or leave it, but that's a point of view from a tantric point of view. And then we've got some young moms in the house. So this is not necessarily meant to push any buttons here. And we've got some probably moms that are not young, but have been moms in the house. And this comes to the point of the unconditional love. We talk about, well, a mother's love is unconditional. And I would say yes and no. But if you can get really honest with yourself, is it? I'm just saying. I mean, yes, there's a level of it, but is just to the degree that you're really able to let your kid be your kid. I know it's parenting, and so you've got to teach them right and wrong. You've got to put containers and boundaries, but it's an interesting question to bring up. But if you have this, I'm not saying you all, but if a mother has this thing that I'm willing to give up my life for my child, which that may be very well the case, but then if to everybody else and everything else on the planet, you kind of are like a bitch on wheels, then I'm not thinking the heart chakra is open, because it's not discerning. My heart chakra is only open when the heart chakra doesn't choose the child to be open for, you know, it's kind of either it's open or it's not really all that open. And so then maybe that survival, that thing about giving up your life for your child might be more of a survival thing, might be more of a root chakra response, not an unconditional love response. I'm not telling you what it is. I'm just bringing a question out that you can think about it, and the moms can maybe get back to me on that, because that'd be good information for me to have through a mom's eyes. this chakra has, and I was taught this by Rod Stryker, and so I don't know the actual numbers or the science behind it, but I'm sure it comes from a tantric text somewhere. He says the chakra has 1,000 times the power to transmute over the first 3 chakras. So if we're trying to try to transmute or transform something in the navel center, if we can get it, if we're at a place where moving it into the heart chakra is available to us, and it may not be all the time, because we definitely need to strengthen those first 3. That's a sense of self is really important. So how we can come from our heart is, it's important. But once we find this place of heart from a more balanced place, this is where we do a lot of this practice, like Bhuta Shuddhi does that transformational thing in the heart versus the navel, because the power to transmute is way stronger in the heart. And I believe that's due to its unconditional nature, less judgment in that changing thing. The negative aspects of your heart being open would be like codependency, addiction, low self-esteem, neediness, things like that. Another thing that we talk about in the heart center, the heart chakra, we have the heart chakra, and then we have the Hrid, H-R-I-D, which would be the spiritual heart. So they're not the same. The heart chakra is this lens. The Hrid is the place of the Jyotish, the Vishoka Jyotishmati, the place that knows no sorrow, that they refer to in the Yoga Sutras, the light in the cave of the heart. So that's not your heart chakra. Heart chakra is just a lens. It's a lens. I'm ready for lunch. So it's ready. I'm ready for a lensy lunch. So the heart chakra is your lens, but your Hrid is eternal. Your Hrid it's that light that never goes out inside of you. It's always there. We're not talking about the same thing. So please don't confuse those when you're teaching and also in your own practices, because they are different according to Tantra. The gland that's associated with the heart, this is filling in the blanks of that chart I gave you that first day, would be the thymus gland, because technically speaking, the heart doesn't have a gland, even though Bonnie Cohen would say it's a gland because there's secretions in there. But we're not going to go with Bonnie's way right now, but I bring in Bonnie because she has, there's a lot more glands in the body than are acknowledged by science. And it's been interesting because I've known Bonnie since the 80s, the late 80s, mid to late 80s. And there's places in the body that she said she felt she had embodied as a gland. And 20 years later, now science is saying, oh yeah, this is a gland. So when Bonnie comes in with this embodiment of thing, I pay attention because she's often far ahead of what is being scientifically proven. Just like so many things, just because we haven't proven it yet doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Yeah. So it's like we didn't have to, gravity was here before we proved gravity was here. It didn't, like the apple didn't fall, Newton made up gravity, and then, oh, now there's this thing called gravity. Well, now we've named it. We've gone to Nama Rupa, but it existed before. So I'm just putting out that I talk more from the Bonnie Cohen glandy thing of the heart, but in the chakra charts of yoga and tantra, the thymus, and I alluded to a little bit, it's that place on your manubrium. You've got your sternum, you've got the manubrium, which is the bone. Sarah, is this correct? Manubrium. Okay, I'm naming it because she knows about the anatomy. So the thymus would be behind your manubrium isc. So if you want to tap on it gently or just gently massage it, this is a place of our immune system. This is where the T cells are made. The thymus is a really interesting gland that it's large when you're a kid and it shrinks as you get older. And I had the opportunity to be in a fresh tissue dissection. So the body was really only 3 days in the freezer, in the cooler. And they said, we have to get to the thymus soon because it starts to just disappear. The longer the body, it just starts to vanish. And it kind of did. So it's this thing that just comes and then just vanishes. Maybe it's there because the body's dead and it doesn't need to fight anything off anymore. And it knows it's not needed anymore. So it just goes, okay, somehow. But as we get older, it gets smaller and smaller because we don't need it like children need it all the time, because we develop other things to take its place. But the thymus energy, in Bonnie's work relates to this first rib, which I alluded to, and gives the power, like the heart and the hands is this, I call it kind of the sign of the cross thing. You've got this up and down from your tail to head, and then your arms out to the sides. So the strength of this cross is so beautiful to me. And it's the thymus that gives power to that width. So something about the power in that width, the power of the lateral. So just something to think about. The tanmatra would be touch. Interesting because it's the hands. The organ of knowledge would be the skin. So that's how we receive the information of touch, that is through the skin. That's the organ that receives touch. The organ of action would be the hands and the skin. And the vayu here would be the prana, the intake, the inward. So that's filling in the chart a little bit more. Probably vata dosha because of the air element. Yep. Okay, so that helps put some more on that. Next week, we will be doing the throat and the third eye. Wrapping it up, I'm hoping we get to Mahamudra. You mentioned that you would like to learn one more mantra. Is this true, everybody? Many of you. So I thought the perfect one to do, if you otherwise just work with Mahamrityunjaya mantra, is we're going to learn the first verse of the Sri Sukta. And the Sri Sukta is perfect for this training because it brings in agni, which is the fire, that fire of transformation that rises up through the chakras, and also brings in lakshmi. So the Sri Sukta is the mantra that takes us from that place of scarcity and lack to inner prosperity and abundance. And that ties back into third chakra today for the wish fulfilling tree, the wish fulfilling aspect of ourselves, the riches that we have inside of ourselves. Sri Sukta helps to unlock our own inner abundance. And I'm not talking about piles of money, even though that might be the case for some, but it's the richness of the abundance that we have and the wealth we have inside of us all the time. So if you're up for it, let's just do a little call and response. And of the words, you can keep your things on mute. And then I will send you the first verse and a recording of the first verse of the Sri Sukta. So if this is something you'd like to play with, you mantra lovers out there, here it is. And we'll talk more about its meaning and all that stuff on our last weekend when we tie it in with Rudra, the fire, Agni, Kundalini, and get it all in 12 hours. And however we do that, fingers crossed, it will happen. All right. So just go ahead and repeat after me. Hiranya Varnam. I'll just watch your lips move. Hiranya Varnam. Hiranya Varnam. Haranim. 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 Hiranya Varnam. Haranim. Hiranya Varnam. Haranim. Suvarna. 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 Rajatas Rajam. Rajatas Rajam. Suvarna Rajatas Rajam. Suvarna Rajatas Rajam. That's the first line. I'm going to go from the top. Hiranyavarnam Haranim. Suvarna Rajatas Rajam. Hiranyavarnam Haranim. Suvarna Rajatas Rajam. Chandram. Wait, Ardha Chandrasana. Chandram. Hiranmayim. Chandram Hiranmayim. Hiranmayim. Chandram Hiranmayim. Lakshmim, like Lakshmi. Lakshmim. Chandram Hiranmayim Lakshmim. Chandram Hiranmayim Lakshmim. Jatavedo. Jatavedo Ma'avaha. Jatavedo Ma'avaha. Chandram Hiranmayim Lakshmim. Jatavedo Ma'avaha. All right, let's add some tune here. Hiranyavanam Haranim. Hiranyavanam Haranim. Hiranyavanam Haranim. Suvana Rajatas Rajam. Suvana Rajatas Rajam. Suvana Rajatas Rajam. Try not to get too locked into the tune because it's not a set tune. It's sort of what Paniji does. So he does it different every single time. So if there's a note here for the musicians out there, if there's a note that changes now and then, just let that slide, okay? I know it's hard because I had that same thing. Hiranyavanam Haranim. Suvana Rajatas Rajam. Chandram Hiranmayim Lakshmim. Chandram Hiranmayim Lakshmim. Chandram Hiranmayim Lakshmim. Hiranyavanam Haranim. Suvana Rajatas Rajam. Chandram Hiranmayim Lakshmim. Jatavedo Ma'avaha. Jatavedo Ma'avaha. Jatavedo Ma'avaha. And I'm just going to do the whole thing 3 times. If you know it, chant along. If you don't know it, let it wash through you. I'll be giving you the words and a recording of it. So you'll have a chance to play with this if you so desire. Regardless, let this moment, let this first verse of this 16 verse mantra awaken yourself up to all that is resplendent inside of you, that is like gold and silver. It's self-illuminating, it's self-luminous. And allow yourself to feel connected to that aspect of your inner prosperity, your place of inner strength, inner prosperity. When we talked about that heart center, so clear, and asking all that is knowing, that fire, the Jata Vedas, that all-knowing fire of the giver of life, that which animates all of life, come to me. Come here. You are my prosperity because I am you. Okay, that's a loose translation. Let's feel it together. Harenyavarnam haranim suvana rajatastrajam chandram haranmayim lakshmim jatavedo ma'avaha. Harenyavarnam haranim suvana rajatastrajam chandram haranmayim lakshmim jatavedo ma'avaha. Harenyavarnam haranim suvana rajatastrajam chandram haranmayim lakshmim jatavedo ma'avaha. Shantihi, shantihi, shantihi. And we open ourselves up to our inner knowledge, that which lights the light inside of ourselves, so that we may know more deeply from a place of embodiment and participation who we really are and what we're really doing here. So we may walk in the world, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual worlds, without judgment, seeing everything as perfect in its own way, everything having its place in its own way, embodying this at such a degree that we can then come down and participate in the world from that point of view, fully making present moment choices that are right for us and our unique flames called to action. Feeling the strength, the clarity of that inner prosperity as we tap into the riches of who we really are. Take a deep breath in. Exhale, release chin to chest. Rub your palms together. Place it over your head, eyes, stroke the throat. I love to hold the heart. Yeah, acknowledge your heart wherever it is, your arms. Hug yourself. This is me hugging you, you hugging me. I love the hugs. Rub your chest, your breasts, your side body, your legs, all the way down to your feet. Thank you so much for being here. Are there any other questions before we sign off? It's my honor, my privilege. If you have any questions that I didn't answer or that come to you, please feel free to email me. I am available. I love you all so much. And I just want to say namaste.
Thanks, Jean.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Jean, see you next time.
See you soon. See you next month.
Thank you.
Thank you. I see your girls, Mia. Lyndsay, thanks.
Thank you.
Lizzie,
Thank you.
see ya.
Oh.
Bye, Lyndsay.
Bye, Jean. Mwah.
Bye.